And I'm back. Whoops. I went to Ontario and I just came back. Ontario was crazy. I loved it actually. Going to the Mental Lexicon 2022 conference. The conference was like really fancy. It was in this hotel that had the most fancy architecture I've ever seen. It was a Georgian style hotel, so it had like big pillars and so much gorgeous art on the walls and big grand stairways and like checkered floors when you come in, and like this wood and white marble on the floors. And there was a doorman. The check-in clerk was super um, fancy in the way he spoke to you. I don't know how to describe it a little better than that, unfortunately, but he was just, hello, how do you do? And I hope you enjoy your stay and all this. Even though he didn't have a British accent, but whenever I think of fancy, that's what I think of. So, anyway, I stayed there. Well, actually, let's back up. So, this is going to be the whole story about how I went to this conference for the last 10 days. Well, the conference was only 3 days, but I traveled for 10 days in Ontario. Ontario is really beautiful. I have a lot of great pictures of the trees. So they have all the classic Canadian maple leaf trees, maple trees obviously. And the leaves were just this deep, beautiful red, bright red in some of them, just like you see on the Canadian flag. And they were just everywhere, and they were all colors, yellow and green and red and all shades in between. And to get there, I caught a flight from Winnipeg to Hamilton, and that took me to Hamilton. And then I had never really been to like a solo flight. It felt like where, well, at least for not a long time, where I just got off and I was just kind of free. So I got there and I just felt like, wow, what an adventure. Didn't know anybody, didn't have any plans. So I started walking. And in hindsight, yeah, I could have traveled by other ways, bus, cab, whatever. But I just walked from the airport at night, um, around 9 o'clock, all the way up the road outside the city to a gas station, to a Tim Hortons, and then a gas station. Got something to eat, got a decaf coffee, in the gas station and ate it and drank, and then went and slept out behind the gas station in a construction site underneath this super cold construction site underneath some insulation roll and on top of some insulation cover or wall wall cover. I made it into a kind of a bed, slept on it, and it was a shitty sleep. Obviously, it was such a shitty sleep. And then after that, I went to I went the rest of the way to I went into downtown Hamilton or close to it. I went to a park and I was still walking. I walked such a long ways, and I just like fell asleep in a park. And I was talking to my friend Ava on the phone, and like she was so worried about me. And then I was telling her that I was gonna hitchhike and stuff, and she was telling me how I shouldn't do it. Well, I ended up hitchhiking later on, but when I was asleep in that park, I went on the couch surfing app, and couch surfing it lets you stay in people's couches for free, and it's all based on references and reviews. And it used to be free, but now you have to pay a little bit of money. Since COVID, they haven't been able to advertise due to the nature of the website. So advertisers pulled out, and now they charge you $3 a month or $20 a year, I think. And so I paid for the $3 a month, and and I got a response, and it was this lady named Catherine who said I could come stay on her couch for the night, and I was just like, yes. And so I got my Airbnb refunded. 90% came back. That was awesome. And then I went and walked to meet Catherine because she said, hey, I'm taking my dogs for a walk. Do you want to come? Well, it was like in the morning. It was like around 10 a.m. I was going on like 3 hours of shitty sleep. And then I went and met her at the corner of a, a cross street nearby. She picked me up and she had these two dogs in the back. And this was just like this super energetic, loving, uh, life loving woman who, like, in her, I think she said she was 58 or something, but she was like, had the spirit of someone much younger. Anyway, she was awesome. And we went and walked her dogs at the dog park. And that was so cool. The Hamilton dog park, it's an off leash one where everything's fenced in. It's a nice big one. There were just so many dogs there. And they were all like off leash, or most of them were, and they were super friendly, most of them, and nice. And all the dogs were greeting each other, little ones, big ones, fluffy ones, um, short hair ones. But her two dogs, Carl and Moxie, were so well trained. These dogs are the most well trained dogs that I've ever met in my life. Carl was incredible, and she had, because this woman was like the alpha of her pack, and she trained those dogs so well. Like, she would say, "Carl, come," and the dog would just come bounding from far away, and then he would sit if she told him to sit, and then she'd give him a treat, and he'd like do whatever he wanted to do after, but like he would listen whenever she said. So anyways, then we walked around there, and like I stayed at their place and we had pizza. I met her partner John. So she was a retired bus driver, he was a retired border service agent, and I was telling them like how I had my laptop refused at the border. Oh yeah, by the way, my laptop got refused at the border. I got searched and everything. And the whole reason why was because my laptop was broken. And actually, can kind of show it. It's just hard to see maybe, but the hinge snapped, like the hinge seized essentially. And so the back of the laptop cracked, the screen broke, and then the hinge eventually came all the way off. Um, but the laptop still works. I plug it into a second monitor and it works. And it's totally fine. But I was trying to take it with me on the airplane. And this guy, the security guard, says, "Sir, why are you taking this?" This is like a Filipino guy with this like golem looking stare, bald head, and tattoos. But he was such a coward. And like I was saying, like, because I was like, it has all my stuff on it. And then he's like raising a fuss. And then he gets his supervisor to come. And then they get the airport, head of airport to come. Like the actual head of the Winnipeg airport to come. And then they get the police to come at the airport. Two cops show up. And there's like three or four regular border guards, the supervisor, the head of the airport, two cops, like, and then there's another guy like searching me all over this broken laptop. And we're standing there for 20-30 minutes while this is all happening, and I hear their conversations, and they're kind of like, it's just complete ridiculousness. They're like, oh, should we allow it, should we not allow it? And like everyone's saying that it's fine, but I could hear they're saying like, it's up to you, it's up to this one guy, Filipino guy. And he's like, oh no, I don't think I'm gonna let it go. And I like said, why not? And he's like, stand over there, sir. Like, what a fucking coward. And it just made me mad because everybody else would have let it go except for this one fucking asshole border guard. So basically, like, that kind of made me angry. But when I was talking to Catherine and her former border security guard husband or partner, like, she made me feel better. She said that, she uses a bus driver. She said, we just have blanket rules. We don't have to know about like all the details. We just see something as like falls under the blanket rule, for safety, we just tell someone they can't get on the bus, or this is not allowed, or that's allowed, or whatever. Like, yeah, it was frustrating for me, but whatever. But the cops were cool, kind of cool. One of them was cool because he was asking, well, what's my presentation about? Because I was saying, like, I need the computer. It's got my files on it. I'm gonna go give a presentation. He says, what's it about? And I said, well, semantic modeling. But then I wasn't expecting any reaction out of him, but then his eyes kind of like lit up a bit and he like knew what it was. And so we were talking a little bit about semantic modeling, but we didn't get much time to talk, but I was just surprised he knew what it was. And then I was explaining a bit to him, but like they escorted me out of the airport and I had to call my friend to come pick up my laptop because he dropped me off and I was like, hey, can you come back? And he came back. And so that was a whole ordeal. But then now, back in Hamilton, John, the security guard guy, who was Catherine's partner, he had a huge World War II collection of memorabilia, artifacts, history stuff, signatures from Nazis, signatures from Allies, signatures um, from like celebrities during the era, and even had both Obama and Biden's signature on the same photograph. I was like, wow, that's kind of cool. And just so many medals. And I was just astounded because like all of this stuff was there during World War II. You know, so many events that happened around this stuff, like amazing. So we were talking about that for a bit, and we didn't get to have a long conversation or anything because it was late, but it was super cool to see, and I'm so thankful he showed me. He even had the part of the door handle from Abraham Lincoln's office. So this is now like back in the mid 1800s or whenever it was in the 1800s. He had that. I was like, whoa, Abraham Lincoln touched that. I just think that's amazing. Um, yeah, there's just so much more to say actually. So going forward, I went and caught a bus from Hamilton to St. Catharines. And then St. Catharines didn't have a bus that went to the conference that I was going to at Niagara on the Lake. So I caught, or actually, I was walking and I just hitchhiked. And I'd never hitchhiked before. And like, I almost didn't even know what to do, even though it was so simple. I think it was just like, I was nervous basically. But I was standing on the side of the highway and I walked to hitchhike. Basically, you don't want to hitchhike like in the city because I Googled it first, like, how do you hitchhike? Any tips? And I got a good tip. It said you don't want to hitchhike in the city. You walk a little ways out of the city to like an off ramp or like the start of a highway. And so I walked out and I was among all these grapevines. It was vineyards because that part of Ontario is wine country. So I had my thumb out. And I was waiting and waiting and cars were just zooming by and I was like, oh man, no one's gonna pick me up. But actually, I kind of knew someone was gonna pick me up. But after the first few, I stopped being like embarrassed because I was a little embarrassed. But then my embarrassment kind of faded when I realized it was just like people I don't know, and like there were so many of them. And it's not like I had to talk to the ones that didn't want to pick me up. They just kept going. And then someone stopped. I was like, I was actually really astounded when this white SUV stopped. And no, it wasn't like a white uh, candy handing out candy van. It was like a nice newer SUV. It didn't look too sketchy or anything, but I went and I like the guy rolled down the window and I said, "Hey, I'm going to Niagara on the Lake," and he said, "Okay, I'll take you there," or something. I can't remember what he said, but he just kind of said, "Okay, get in." I said, "Can I put my suitcase?" I put it in the back. And then I got in, and like he said, "You look safe." I said, "Thanks." I don't know. It turns out he was a former preacher, a former minister of a church. And he was a really good man. His name was Lloyd. And so Lloyd and I were driving along the highway in, um, to Niagara-on-the-Lake on 55, Route 55 in Ontario. And it was a really quick drive, actually. Would have been a 4-hour walk for me, but it was only a 20-minute drive. And me and Lloyd were talking. He was asking about my research. He didn't really understand it too much. I was like, "So Lloyd, my research is on semantic modeling. Semantics means the meaning of words. Um, do you know what a word's meaning? Do you know where a word gets its meaning, Lloyd?" And then he's like, "Oh, well, Lloyd means," like, "Oh, not what I meant." But I wasn't about to correct him because it just didn't seem too necessary. And he was an older man, and he started telling me a little bit about his family. And I remember he, honestly, when we got there, it was a beautiful town, by the way, once we got in there. Niagara-on-the-Lake is so scenic. He started telling me a little bit of a story about a man who was on his deathbed, and that he was the man requested a priest or like a preacher to come and give a sermon, to come help him meet his like spiritual need, like end of life spiritual needs. And so Lloyd conferred with the family, or the family, I think, got Lloyd, and the word got around, and it ended up being like 35 people in this room with Lloyd, and he gave a lot of like spiritual, like Christian teachings to this guy who was gonna pass away within the next few days. And basically at the end of it, the guy just kind of like gave a thumbs up, like it's all good, like like he was just at peace or something. And I guess that's like, you know, the hitchhike thumb up. And then that was it. And I got out and went to the conference. And so in the conference, it was just so great. I loved it. I got to sleep in a beautiful bed. And I, like, my head hit the mattress, and the room was so nice. And I had two beds. I only slept in one. My head hit the mattress, and I was like, ah. And sleeping in there was so good. And then I went and gave the conference presentation. And the conference, well, actually, I forgot my poster. Like, I didn't actually know I was supposed to bring a poster. They didn't really tell me I was supposed to bring one. And it was my first conference. So I think Lori had a minor freak out. And actually, when I realized that I was supposed to have a poster, I had a little bit, I remember having some terrible anxiety, and I felt so down on myself, so stupid. Even though it wasn't like 100% my fault or anything. I don't know. I just felt like I was thinking I fuck everything up. Everything gets fucked up when I try and do things, but I was thinking about like just laying in bed all day in the hotel room. Then I thought, or no, I was thinking I won't go to the thing, to the talks and the presentations because I won't have one and I'll feel so stupid. Then I was thinking, what am I gonna do? Lay in bed all day? And then that got me out of bed because I kind of pictured just how stupid that is. And I just realized like it wouldn't be so bad if I tried. So when I told Lori, she had a minor freak out, but then she actually just moved me to the second day presentations. And then sent me or put me in contact with some people who were going to go print posters because they had to print them as well. So I went with them. They were good people from university in Montreal. I can't remember the name of it. Um, and like we all went and printed our posters and went at Staples. The woman working there, his name's Misty Ann, and Misty Ann was having a freak out. So we got there at 6 p.m. and the Staples closes at 9, and we requested three big posters, big, like you know, big as you can stretch your arms. And Misty Ann was saying like, so you want the 1 hour service? We're like, yeah, and she's like, she was just having a cow because, or more like a breakdown because she had a bunch of other orders, and here we were piling on top, and she was trying to accommodate us. One of the people, actually the three people I was with, were not too good. I will say they were not too good at speaking to people like in the real world to get something practical done. They were kind of like being jerks a little bit, and also just like taking some of that stress onto themselves. And like I feel like I kind of just entrained with Misty Ann a little bit, and like had like a calming effect on her, or at least that was my intention. And in the end, everything worked out really well. I just sort of like thanked her so much, and like I don't know, just it's not too hard to help people out. I think um, I'm good at it. I have some experience in doing that with the safety and well-being and I team at the Red Cross, and I think that really stuck with me. Just being with people and talking to them, listening to what they have to say, and not hammering a solution down their throats immediately, because it's not usually a rational thing. Like not hammering a rational solution to whatever it is. It's like, oh, you have to do this, you have to do that. Da, 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 da. Like people know, people are not that dumb, but their emotions get in the way, right? She was probably having, who knows what her day was like, but it turned out to work out for all of us. And I didn't get to go back to see her, unfortunately, to pick up the poster later. But when I got the poster off of one of the people from Montreal University, they said, "Oh, Misty Ann, she was all smiles," and I said, "Oh, I knew she could do it." So she got it done. Um, and then the next day we presented, and I felt like my presentation could have gone a little better. So the way it worked was basically there were 18 so there were 18 big boards in a room. Not a very big room, kind of like almost like out in the hallway, lining the hallway. There were 18 big boards. And I was trying to figure out, well, where do I put my poster? And then I was asking people and they didn't know. And then so I thought, oh, I'll check the schedule. So I checked the schedule and it said there were 17 posters scheduled for day 2. But there were 18 boards, I noticed. So I thought, oh, that makes sense. I should put mine on number 18. They put an extra one for me, right? So I put it up. And this was in the morning, like a couple hours before the poster thing. And then I come back out when the poster thing is supposed to happen after a couple hours. And someone had taken my poster down. And I was like, what the heck? And somebody else was putting their poster up. And I was saying like, so did I take your spot? And the person putting their poster up, they're wearing a stupid mask and they're like totally ignoring me. I was like, excuse me, did I take your spot? And then they look at me, oh, uh, the organizer took it down. They thought it was from the day before. I was like, what the heck? Like, I was so mad. I was so mad. It just didn't make sense. Because, like, why would they take it down when it's clearly on the 18th board, like, and there's 17 poster presentations, and, like, I was kind of pissed off. And then later in the presentations, there was, like, straight up empty boards everywhere. They're just dumb. But, like, I guess that's the best that could be done because of the circumstances, right? And, like, not everything's perfect. But yeah, I got to present, and I felt like my presentation time wasn't long enough because when I was presenting, I actually really enjoyed it. And, like, the people who came to see my presentation, oh, there was someone who I wanted to come see my presentation, but she didn't, and I felt like I was kind of like annoyed because, like, I don't know, I went to her presentation and, like, we were all friendly and stuff, and, like, she didn't even come see mine. But I guess she didn't know I was presenting on the second day, maybe. But anyways, the people who came to see my presentation, they were so interested in it, and some of them were. I love the comments from one guy from Germany. He said, "Oh, this one seems like it actually has some substance," because this was a linguistics conference, so a lot of the posters were really boring. And, like, I love and appreciate linguistics, but some of these posters were really boring. But mine was more. I would say that mine is more. Um, Mine is less narrow focused. Mine is more big picture. It's more applied linguistics because mine is on semantic modeling of news media, comparing indigenous and non-indigenous media and showing how the same exact word can have a completely different meaning between the two media outlets. And so I got to explain it to a lot of people. And typically people were more interested in the implications, which is great because I am too. So I got to share my thoughts on the implications because, um, like Bill, a, a man from University of Northern BC, UNBC, was asking about kind of like what it means type of questions, like what does it mean? And then so I had written a Bible verse in my down because I was, oh yeah, I found a Bible in the place at a library. I found a Bible in the library and I was using it for comfort, and one of the verses really comforted me, really was perfect, and I wrote it down. I had it in my back pocket. I took it out and I read it to him. It said that I think let me just quickly search it so I don't quote it wrong. You brood of vipers. Okay, Matthew 1, 2, 3, 4. It says, "You brood of vipers, how can you who are evil say anything good? For the mouth speaks what the heart is full of." So in my opinion, um, what comes from the heart is a representation of what's in the heart. What comes from the mouth is a representation of what's in the heart. And I got to show this um, in a scientific way and really connect that to something greater. That being the Bible and um, God, I think. So I think it was an important conference, and I really enjoyed it. Um, and I think my presentation went really well. Yeah, and then the third and final day, we just had a lot more presentations. I got to talk to a few people. I didn't actually get to talk to as many people as I wanted to, but I got to meet a couple of rock stars in the semantics world. Victor Cooperman, and Brendan Johns, who I really admire. And I just thanked Brendan for his work, because a lot of the stuff that I've done has been just like directly looking at stuff he's done and like studying the papers he's done. So he's a real rock star in the semantics world. And I think right now his work is what he's thinking. Because I asked him what he's working on in the future, and it sounds like he's trying to find um, he's trying to create a semantic analysis of individual people from Reddit comments, which I think is interesting. And I think that that can be really important, and maybe already being done by uh, Google, Facebook, or the government, or whoever has access to all the data that is voice recorded from our cell phones that we carry around. I think that that may be already being done. And if it's not being done, maybe it should start to be done. I think it should be done because the potential there is immense. Um, I'm not sure if it's being done yet. But anyways, the conference was good. And then after that, I went to Toronto, and well, I went to St. Catharines. I walked all the way back through the vineyard. I didn't hitchhike back. I walked. It took like 4 hours. Went to the Canadian Tire, bought a backpack and a sleeping bag, moved all my luggage, all my stuff from my luggage, from my suitcase to the backpack, and then just left the suitcase in the parking lot because I was so tired of carrying that thing by hand. Like, that took a lot. And then I just had a backpack, but like the suitcase was broken, and I had got it for free, so now somebody else can take it. But and then I went and slept near a trail, and when I was walking to the trail, I had like a backpack, a sleeping bag, and a gallon of water in one hand, and someone stopped their car and said, "Are you a soldier?" I said, "No, I'm a student." They're like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "No, I need somewhere to sleep. Do you have anywhere I can sleep tonight?" They're like, "I don't have anywhere for you to sleep." It's like, "Okay, have a good night." I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna go sleep in the bushes. Have a good night." And then I went and slept in the bushes, kind of like by a trail, and I slept on top of my semantics poster because I didn't want to sleep on the wet ground on my sleeping bag. But so my poster got a little ruined, which is sad. But yeah, oh well. And then I oh, when I woke up after sleeping, I slept good too outside actually that night because I had the sleeping bag. Um, it kept me really warm. And then when I woke up, it was raining a bit, but I went and I saw a bike in the bushes that I'd walked by, but in the dark I couldn't see it. So I rode it. I started riding this bike. That was awesome. It was like an old beater bike, not a nice one or anything, but I was riding it and it was super nice. It was the morning. And then I was riding toward the bus station, and then some grizzly looking guy stops me and says, "Hey, that's my buddy's bike." I was like, "Oh, really?" I got off it and gave it to him. He's like, "Oh, lucky my buddy didn't catch you riding that." I said, "Oh, okay. Can I have my drink back?" On the bike's drink holder, I left a Powerade. He's like, "Oh, okay." Hands me it with this claw fist. And then I walk the rest of the way to the bus station. Well, I went inside a cafe first and charged my phone because I was like really cold, had a nice decaf coffee. That was nice. And then I went to the bus station, caught a bus um, to Toronto. And when I got off out in Toronto, I was like, whoa, just huge buildings everywhere. Like, I'm from Winnipeg. I haven't seen a real metropolis like that, where everywhere you look is just massive buildings. And you go down a street and you look around you, it's like massive buildings. You go down another street, you look around, it's like massive buildings. And just so many people, like throngs of people walking around, and like so much going on, and like a mixture of like suits and beautiful women and um, you know, like poor, rich, just all in between. And something I noticed about Torontonians is that they're kind of weird in that when you're walking by them, they just kind of like they'll be looking somewhere else and they'll look at you like that and then they'll like glance away. They'll just like micro look at you. But if you try, and I was doing this, I was trying to like smile at people and say hello or like good morning or something if it was the morning. And so I look at them and I'd be like good morning, and like they'd do that, and the, like they just weren't ready for it. Like it's just weird. But yeah, I went to Toronto's Chinatown. I had this sticky rice ball from a food vendor on the side of the road, and I mean it was okay. $3.50. It's kind of Some guy stopped. He's like, "Are you outside?" He's like, "What?" He's like, "Do you want a couple bottles of water?" I was like, "Oh yeah, sure." He's like, "Here you go, 2 bottles of water." Super nice guy. He's like, "Did you get that from the lady selling them?" I was like, "Oh no, from the guy." He's like, "Are they good?" I was like, "Yeah, you should try one." So, anyways, nice people though. Some really nice people in Toronto. And then I went to I stayed on uh, another person from Couch Surfing's couch. His name is Julian, and really nice guy. Let me stay over, um, and let me use his shower. It was so nice to shower because I hadn't showered in so long, and just stay on his bed was or his, not his bed. His couch was great. Like after sleeping outside, I just appreciated it so much. Oh, actually, the first night I was in Toronto, I had nowhere to stay, and I was in this hotel charging my phone, trying to like swipe on Tinder to find someone to stay with. Literally, I was like, "Hey, I'm in Toronto. I have nowhere to stay. Can I stay with you?" And like, no one would let me. Understandable, right? But I had hope, but no one would let me. And then so I was in this hotel, and I was like, hmm. And I went on Reddit, and or I went on like where to sleep outside homeless Toronto, and it was like a Reddit post, and it said some just absolute beauty on this Reddit post said, go to a mid-level condo and go in the stairwell, go up to the top and sleep there. They never check it. And I was like, oh, this is gold. So I went to the elevator, and I went in the elevator, and I was trying to like punch the buttons to go up, but it wasn't working because like you need to scan a key card because they know people are going to try and go up if they're and you need. But then a couple people came in, and they like just like looked at me and they scanned their key card and went to hit their floor, and then I hit a floor 15, but it was a 25 floor thing. And then like they got out, and then I got out at my floor, and like then I went straight to the stairwell, went up to the walked to the top, put my sleeping bag out, and just slept. I had not a great sleep, to be honest with you. Nope. But I did sleep. It was kind of rough, but I did sleep. I don't know what time I woke up. I think it was probably around 7 or 8 in the morning. And then I just got my stuff, left the stairwell, caught. Oh, it must have been. Yeah, it must have been around 6 or 7 because it wasn't bright out yet. I think it gets brighter out around 7:38. And then I took a picture from the 25th floor of this like gorgeous view from this nice hotel that I just stayed in the stairwell on a sleeping bag. And then I was just walking around Toronto, checking it out. And then I stayed with Julian that night. And then the next day, or was it the same day? Yeah, actually, it was the same day. Yeah, he let me come with, or he invited me to come with him and his friends to go to a psychedelics expedition, and this was so cool. There was like art of all psychedelic stuff. There was history. There was beautiful visuals and everything. Some like special setup visuals with lights and stuff. And my favorite was this picture of stoned ape theory. It's this ape staring at a mushroom, and the mushroom is beaming to the ape. And then out from the back is all this like psychedelic stuff coming out of the ape's head. So it's stoned ape theory. And then after that, we went to Julian's friend had a car and drove us to a mushroom shop, and they bought some mushrooms. You can actually buy mushrooms in Toronto. It's amazing. And then after that, we went to a Chinese food place, Roll San, I think. It was really good. The food was amazing. It was really spicy though. Um, Vesti, who was with us, got some spicy rice, and it was the most spiciest rice ever. But we all shared food, like it was big plates and Chinese food restaurant style. We just took it to our little plates, and so it wasn't so spicy for her when we all mixed when you took some of everything. So we all helped her out, and like she could eat ours. And but I actually really liked the spicy rice. It was great. I had the pad thai. Um, and then after that, yeah, I watched an episode of Dahmer. Oh, I had a great conversation with Julian's friend, and also with Julian too. But we all talked about like spirituality, psychedelics, all this stuff like healing, ayahuasca, just sharing some really good stories and whatever. Um, and shared some hugs and stuff. So it was really nice that way too. And then after Toronto, I just went back to. Um, I went back to. Oh, I went to Windsor to go talk to. Caught a bus to Windsor to talk to my professor. It was an alright meeting. My professor definitely. She's got like some anxiety or something. Like you can just tell. But she's a nice woman, and we discussed, and she said there may be a research assistant part-time job for me that's coming up. And I said, awesome, that'd be great. And like just in Windsor, I was just like, whoa, I'm back here. Feels weird, but it was so cool. And then also walking around Windsor, oh, I went to Tasty Ritos again, and the girl who works there, she remembered me, and she's like so surprised to see me, and I was like, oh, I came back, just for one day, and she was so nice, and uh, then I had the Tasty Ritos, and then um, I bumped into Kofi, one of my friends from the summer. And I was like, hey, I'm here, and I'm gonna go to Daggy's house. He said I could stay over. You should really come. And he's like, wow, amazing to see you. And then when I was like leaving, then I saw Riza, one of the Iranians, and like, oh, I wish I could have spent more time talking to him, but he had to go to work, and I didn't unfortunately get to talk to him much. But I was just like, I was so happy to like have come back to this place, and like people remember me. They're like so happy to see me. Like I just don't get that here, you know. I just have never got that in my life. It was just such a nice feeling, such a nice welcoming feeling. And like, yeah, really good people. I'm really blessed to know them. I'm happy that I crossed paths with them. And like staying at Daggy's house was great. I didn't like one of his roommates though. One of his roommates' name is Logan. Has a really bad attitude. When I was telling my stories to Daggy, and Logan like wanted to join us, which is fine. It's his house too. He's living there, but like he wanted to, he joined us, but like and so I include him in the story too, and I'm talking to him as well as Daggy and stuff. But like, there's three of us sitting there around a table, and he just like would interject or jump in every time I'd say something that was a little bit like out of the ordinary, which obviously if you've listened to me talk so far, you realize like I do things that are out of the ordinary, and I don't mind, like, and I'm not ashamed of it, like sleeping outside or whatever. And when I would say that, he would like interject and he'd look at Daggy and be like, bro was homeless and like, oh, he's like sleeping outside and stuff. It's like, I'm literally sitting right here. Like, that's just rude. Um, I don't know. Like, speaking about somebody when they're like right there and they can obviously like hear what you're saying, and like it was like talking to someone who was trying to watch TV and talk to his friend while watching TV, but like I'm not a TV, I'm a person. So anyways, I didn't like this Logan guy. And then um I was talking about, I brought up like Kanye West versus Jewish media thing that's been going on, and like the Logan guy is just like, he starts getting louder and louder, and his eyes are like this, so it looks like he's on Adderall or something. He's like he's not mentally well. He's just like he's having an episode or something. I'm like, okay, yeah, he is bipolar, but that doesn't invalidate all the things he's saying. He's bringing up some really valid points about how like Jewish media does control a lot. But anyways, that guy was kind of irritating. But I was so happy to see Daggy, and Daggy's doing good, and happy to see Malik. Malik's he's not doing he's doing about the same, I'd say, but he's a really strong dude, so he'll get through. He's just going through his school and everything, and I know how it is, not easy. So he'll be all right. And then got to talk to Kofi a lot, and me and Kofi had a great long conversation about psychedelics as well as culture and the origins of a lot of things that happen, and trauma as well. Just talking about Gabor Mate's work, and yeah, and then I slept there and left a thank you note for Daggy, and just I'm really happy he let me sleep there. And then I just went and caught the train to Aldershot, which is like near Burlington, Ontario. From there, a bus back to the airport in Hamilton, and then went. Oh, in but when I was in Hamilton, I had a bit extra time because my plane was delayed, and I went to this place, a shawarma place on the corner near a fire station, and there was this woman in there like taking the orders, and she was like wearing a Tiger Cats jersey, and like then on the wall lined with pictures of her with football players, like mostly Tiger Cats players, this like little woman just beaming, smiling, and then she was taking orders, and like um, she'd be like, $16, hun, and then she'd be like, what can I get for you, hun? Chicken and rice? Okay, hun. Can I get a chicken and rice? That'll be $16, hun. $25, hun. $48, hun. 3 shawarma. Like, most annoying woman ever, but like shit, her heart's in the good right place. But yeah, no, she was alright. I wished her, I told her to have a good day and everything. She's nice. Busy place too, but the food was really good, so no wonder it's busy, and all the big football guys go there. Huge meal for $16. Totally would recommend it. Can't remember the full name of it. I just know it's a shawarma place near Fire Hall in Hamilton. And then so I went back to the airport, waited for my plane, got on my plane, and I had a seat on the plane. So there's 3 seats next to each other, and then the aisle, and then 3 more seats. I was on the aisle seat, and then across the aisle, none of those seats were taken. And the flight attendant tells me I could move over. I said, okay. So I moved over, and then I was like looking out the window. It was great. And then I got tired, and then I just like, I lied down on the 3 seats, had a sleep. It was such a good flight. I had such a good flight back. Then got back, and Jesse picked me up, and it was such a surprise that it was his birthday. I didn't know, and I feel kind of bad that I didn't know, but like I'm terrible with that stuff. But I gave him a shirt because I bought him a shirt at the psychedelics thing, and he likes to take a lot of psychedelics. Um, and so I gave him this nice mushroom shirt, And he said, you know, it's my birthday today. I was like, no way, happy birthday. So it was a pretty awesome trip for the last 10 days, and I'm happy to be back.